person right after me, she went on and on and on and on and on. So it's just all over the place. So
yeah, I agree with you. As a mod, I get upset too.
You do? Okay. Well, that's what I was wondering about. I mean, I was really, and John, you may have actually been in that room. I think that's the last pitch I did. It was with, oh gosh darn it, Phil Castro's room.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that room. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was right on time and got a little bit of feedback. There was one investor who thought I should start off with my personal story. And she was a little harsh around that, but the person after me, she had a very long pitch. She wasn't on time and then got just a ton of feedback. And so whatever is going to be done in a room needs to be consistent. I think the rules need to be said right up front before you start pitching. And then as to whether or not I want a deep dive, I wouldn't mind a deep dive, quite frankly. I think it would be much more helpful to the founder and the entrepreneur.
So I have a question on that, Karen. So I agree with everything you said. I also don't like rooms that have 50,000 mods either, right? You just want, The question is, my concern as a person that pays, like, I'm very respectful of time. People seem to listen in. If they just listen in and don't say anything, they're listening for their own edification. We should be okay with that as mods, right? I think a part of it is like we rushed and we don't rush, we rush and we don't rush because we feel bad about the people in queue. If we do a deep dive, do we have you submit a deck beforehand, or do we tell the audience, say, hey, you can listen in, but we're not going to call you up? Do we do that?
Yep. I think you should. I think you should look at everybody's deck or whatever they're doing before you call them up. There should be rooms, though, for founders to learn, because there are a lot of founders that have no idea what they're doing. There's other ones like me who, this is my third startup and I've been through a couple of accelerators. So you have varying degrees of founders.
Okay, so I'm keeping a running tab list right now. We've got consistency, keeping timing strict, deep dive, benefit there, and less mods. And
also she's mentioned to divide the room, like new versus like serial, meaning they're two different kinds of variable types of founders. Are you a new one that you don't know what you're doing, and then, or you have Karen who's done it before? So she's got a point. They're two different experience levels, right?
So I think it's so true. The only thing I think it's true too, because when you're listening to someone and someone's super polished because they've gone through it, and then someone else that isn't polished, so then it kind of breaks the structure of the room. And not that one's better than the other, but yeah, it might help to just be like, hey, like we're gonna have people come up for this type of room. It's this, and I don't know if that means that you plan ahead of time or have people fill something out, which might feel weird, but yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too.
There is a room where I can't remember, I haven't pitched in that room, but she has people fill things out ahead of time and apply, and they have to look at your bio on Clubhouse before they'll invite you up. And I think you have to submit a pitch deck too. So there are rooms like that. And then there are other rooms that just aren't like that, period. So it'd be great to group them.
So Red, I think we just take the feedback and just try to see where the need is. We could do different kinds and try to beta test it, see how it goes.
So Karen, here's an example. I want to make sure we're on point, and then take more room for Jeff and Arpit who are on stage too. So here's an example, right? We create a room that's defined where we're going to go, and we haven't talked about the timing yet around how long we want to address the deep dive. But from a consistency, we're going to talk about mods that are relevant. So it's not 30 or 40 mods. We talk about maybe a handful of really relevant mods based on a new founder that's still early stage in a seed round. So they haven't even raised any money, and they are B2B. that's really niche. Like, we're not trying to go for everyone to join the room now. Is that an example of something that you're trying to get towards? Minus how deep we go. I want to make sure we're on track. That's all.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has to have the same definition as to what seed round means, because it doesn't mean the same for everybody, right? So seed for some may be angels, but they've already raised a pre-seed round with angels. Like we have, we were pre-revenue, we raised,
But I think Red's saying that it's B2B is very focused too, though. That actually is another parameter that separates people, right?
That's true. Or it could even be a B2B2C, or it could be a direct-to-consumer room. I mean, that would be great if all the rooms were divided. Now, who knows who will be able to attend what rooms and when?
But
right?
we could kindly bump them off the stage and be like, oh, this is not that session. We have,
right.
Yeah.
That's kind true. Bump, John. The kind bump. We're gonna have to call that out and make that a real thing.
Yeah. I agree. A kind bump would be really nice, and it'd be really nice if people were just kind. Period. I mean, I'm out of Boulder, so we've gone through 2 days. We're on our third day of heck because of this mass shooting here, and it just makes a world of difference if people are kind.
Should we move on to Jeff, maybe?
Yeah, and Karen, thank you. One of the things we're going to kindly do is we're going to kindly bump you back to the audience.
That sounds great, because I have a call that I got to get prepped for.
We will find you again. Follow us. I'm going to follow you. That way we can have an opportunity to bring you into when we bring this to Alpha, right?
Okay. Okay. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Karen. So, Jeff, weigh on in. What is missing so far from our validation stream?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and I know we spoke about it so far, but there is a clear need, I would say, for specificity with whom you would like to be pitching with you in what rooms. So I think that whether it's like US versus UK versus Africa versus Asia, whatever the specification around geography, type of business, B2B versus B2C, especially if you're saying B2C, is it online or is it traditional brick and mortar or wholesale?
Brilliant.
I think all those
Brilliant. I love it.
Okay. And then number 2 was moving on to the next topic, number of moderators. So there's a balancing act that you guys, I'm sure, are aware of, that depending on how many followers a person has when you bring them up to stage is how much your room gets filled. So how much of your focus wants to be on bringing the most volume of audience members in and then slowly removing moderators down, or just setting like rules that, hey, there's 2 ways that I've seen this moderated in the past previously, right? So, hey, there's 2 different ways. Number 1 is you can have a rule of maximum 3 points of feedback from 3 distinct people on one individual's business, regardless of how long it goes on, but it's only those 3 people. And usually the key moderator, like the head moderator or the MC, never actually speaks about anybody's business. They're just there to say, hey, I want these 3 moderators to speak about this person's business given their background, and that's it. Or the other way that you can do it is you can have a assigned person. I've seen this being done really well in other non-business rooms, where you have one person on stage who is kind of the queue, and you have everyone DM that person on Instagram if they're interested in coming in speaking up, and they have to give a 3 to 5 sentence pitch in their message, and that person assigns in the back channels 2 or 3 of the mods on stage to prepare feedback to that person based on that pitch plus a link to their website or their app, whatever it might be. So this gives time, as the queue has been built up, for those moderators to do multiple different reviews before the person comes up and just give immediate feedback, essentially, on the topic. So basically, you're building up the queue. You're allowing there to be a lot of moderators on top, but each of them has a job to go do for someone who's in the queue. Does that make sense?
It does. I love the triage mod. I think that's a great model.
Awesome. And then the last thing that I would just simply say here, guys, and this is less about format, it's just something to like keep things easygoing, is have someone who plays music, who's like the goofy person in the group out of the mods, just to kind of break the silence and break the flow, that there's like some music or some joke that's dropped, or like best dad jokes, whatever it might be, to kind of ease people who've joined in throughout the time in the room as whatever you got going on that's planned kind of has like a resetting the room type of thing. The best, if that person is in your room, the goofy person, ask them if they're willing to switch their profile picture to the agenda of the room or the resetting of the room in written form as their profile picture. So you don't have to constantly say, we're going to reset the room and then spend the next 5 to 10 minutes resetting the room. You could just simply say, we're going to reset the room. Please look at Jeff's profile, his PTR, and it explains where we're at. We're on item number 2 right now, right? Like that sort of thing, just to kind of speed the resetting of the room for all the people who join in late or trickle in. I hope that was helpful feedback, guys.
Very creative. I like it. My opinion is that I don't care if there's 250 people. It's really the quality of the feedback that makes more sense. I don't like the speed churn, the speed dating format. I don't think that you get really much out of it. That's just my opinion, though. Thank you so much. That's really creative.
I will kindly bump myself back to the audience unless Jonathan and Red have anything to say.
Well, I will say, Jeff, and play on words and humor. We're going to do that. Music and stuff. I mean, have you been to the Baby Shark room? It's a very entertaining format for pitching, and they do a lot of those elements. But if I had to take away from your feedback, specific to the specific, if we're going to have mods, those mods must align with the specificity that we're going for. So if this is a B2B SaaS marketplace, early stage seed round for female founders, then we should have mods that specifically invest in that. So it's less about John and I at this point. We're just trying to solve a bigger problem. And that's really good feedback, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah. The last thing that I might say before I move myself to the audience is if you guys are not following a gentleman by the name of Billy Samoa, it's the @BILLYSAMOA. He mods rooms almost every single night. PST, and he does an incredible job. Like him and his team do an incredible job modding, and so you might just pick up some tricks from there if you guys aren't doing it already. I don't mean to patronize you. I've only been in a couple of your rooms. That's all.
Thank you.
All right. And I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, Arpit, but you've been here listening the whole time. What is still missing from what you think is a need out there for pitching? Feedback.
I just have 2 or 3 small things to say. First one would be on the lines of what Jeff just said. So I think the goal could be to just have more clarity and have an understanding of time that people, founders may have to pitch their businesses. The first could be a qualifying rule. For example, if the company, if the product is from an industry you're interested in, and if they have a traction, like if they qualify for that, then they can pitch. And the second thing is, it would be always better if we sort of have a rule about how long can the pitch be and what the format can be. I'll give you a small example. So one of the general rules is that you should be able to describe your business in 1 line. So that could be the first rule or sort of a guideline thing. And second would be how many people are there in your room and if you have traction. If these 3 things are at least clear, more people can get more clarity and the things can be easy. That's all I have to say.
All good reinforcements for sure, and appreciate that. I think a lot of that is the nuance of our performance. So thank you, Arpit. It's easier said than done. We'll do our best. John, and just to make sure we're on time check, I know we only really talked about doing this for half an hour to get closer to a place where we think we're going to add value to Clubhouse. Where do you think we are so far? Where are the gaps before we move to Raquel and Steve?
You mean in terms of gaps of where we need the feedback, Red?
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening in, John and I don't like when we're in rooms and we just see a bunch of people get 60 to 90 seconds and it's clear they need more time and the advice they're getting theoretically is wrong. And just in general, we're getting feedback from other people that there's a potential better for pitch rooms. I don't want to be leading the witness here.
Yeah.
But we're trying to determine if that's true.
Yeah. So I think the gap is where when they send me a DM and they send me a deck. So now I've created potentially a huge time bandwidth issue for myself just for modding a room. And I would prefer to diligence somewhat with other investors together so that it's a collective feedback and it's more meaningful. That's just my preference, as opposed to like, one or two, three mods giving one sentence as feedback. And I know that some of it could be valuable, but it only brings in, it moves the needle just a little bit, Red, but I'm not sure. So I guess we have to decide on the model that makes sense, quality versus quantity, and then the sectors. I think triage, I think separating the content is good, like the B2B, B2C. I think we'll get smaller rooms and we'll be able to take a deeper dive. So my gap thinking is, how do we do the deeper dive? Like, how do they want it? That's my question.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, we shouldn't have all the answers. Yeah, Raquel, please weigh in. What do you think?
Hi, this is Raquel speaking. I wanted to just give the room. I think that, was it Karen that mentioned? It's room.club/ch pitch practice. That's where you fill out the form for that, where they let you give your pitch in 2 minutes, and then the mods each speak for about 5 minutes each, and then you get a chance to kind of, respond to the mods for 30 seconds, and then you move on.
So Raquel, are you saying you like that model? I think we lost her, Red.
Raquel, I don't know if you can come off mic for a second, but are you confirming that you like the idea where before you can get on stage, it's recommended that we have a form that is filled out so that we can have context rather than trying to do it all live in one session?
Your notes on like where they need to adjust their pitch. That's all. I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Oh, Raquel, I think we missed half of that. Can you repeat what you just?
Oh, did you get the URL for the club?
Yeah, but we would have to get our own URL. But yes, we understand.
Yeah, but if you go on that one, you can see their form they make you fill out before you can be eligible to pitch.
Yeah, other people do that. Thinclusive does that. The Angel House does that. A lot of people do that. So you're saying that you're a proponent of us doing homework before you get selected to come up to stage. Is that right?
Also in a little bit, but then because they do look at the pitch in advance, they look at the website while you're pitching actually. But I think it's helpful to get comments back from the mods that are specific to the sections of the pitch, like in the format, like from the beginning to the end, like where all those moments were that needed like a little bit of adjustment or more clarification that would make it stronger instead of just more vague things, like throughout the. Yeah. Thanks.
It's funny you say that. I think that's not just an indication of something we need to change, but that, John, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes we don't have the answer, but Clubhouse makes it so tempting to respond. And I think if you're hearing people that aren't diving deep, it could be, unfortunately, the moderator. So we'd probably, John, and homework to us, we might not be the best people for all the mods of this type of room, but making sure the mod is specific to that industry should help solve for that, Raquel, because there's no imposter syndrome. Like they're going to be able to advise down to the finite atom level if they're relevant, rather than these general rooms where you're hearing B2C investors commenting on B2B stuff. Like, oh, just because they did a marketplace doesn't mean they understand how CPG works. Yet I've watched rooms where this has happened. Does that address a little bit of the concern? Mod specificity? Do you think that would help?
Definitely. And just like kind of specific to the prongs that are necessary, that need to be strong. Some people give a great backstory, but then the rest of the details are like weaker. But then when you get general comments, it's not really speaking to specific aspects of what was missing in the pitch or what wasn't as strong. So yeah, that's helpful.
Thank you so much. It's, I know we know, your feedback means a lot to me, Raquel, because I actually see you in almost every pitch room listening. So I know that you're coming from a place of experience of being in many different rooms. So we appreciate the feedback.
Oh,
so we go to
look forward to the next pitch room.
Good luck, Raquel. Steve, bring it.
Yes. So I can only speak from the founders' rooms, pitch rooms, because those are the only ones I've been in. But I really do like Jonathan's structure, the pitch structure that he has on his Instagram. but I did mention to him and a few others, and I'd like to mention to the room that I think there should be like a step before one that is like setting up the story, because I've noticed most pitches usually are like a story. They have a beginning, middle, and end, and it doesn't really address setting up that story in the first point.
That's really helpful, because they're trying to rush their story. But Steve, to be fair though, how would you address that at scale, right? A lot of people haven't figured out how to tell their story, and that's part of the feedback they need. So is it giving them a time constraint, or are you suggesting we should give them as much time as they need to get the story out, because that's where they're going to need the coaching?
I think maybe just giving more assistance in how to formulate the story, your first opening line.
So I think what Red is saying is that to scale, you would need a mod specifically that is really good at coaching at that story. But there are also cerebral mods that know that sector and market, Steve, that are just giving them advice on fundraise or perspective on that traction build or customer stickiness or whatever that is, which is separate from their own personal story as expertise and why they chose that sector. Why you and your team? That's the ultimate question, right? It's one of the questions that an investor asks. And so that's personal story. And so it's like a side off kind of coaching, not necessarily like a general investor or former founder that can help unless they have a forte in that. And some of the mods do. I'm saying that it causes some inconsistencies depending on the mod, if I can say so.
That's a really good point, John. I mean, that could be a room on its own theoretically. It's just, we're not asking you to tell us about your business model, how you make money. We just want to see if you can get us to lean in. If you have a room of specific mods, right? B2C, luxury fashion, and you're trying to get them to lean into a story and they're not biting and you're in that industry, that will be a huge indication that your story needs work, rather than them grilling you on business model and your go-to-market strategy. Like, there are functions of a pitch. So maybe that's the piece that's missing. Hey, actually, Steve, you've been in a lot of rooms. Where do you think people need the most help? If we had to divide it up into 4 things: story, business model, go-to-market strategy, and the founding team. I know there are probably others, but I'm trying to oversimplify.
I think I can only speak from my own experience, and I don't have very much, so I don't know what it's worth. But the storytelling is what keeps people engaged, so I think that's the most important piece.
And we have Alejandra in the audience who actually does that for a living. So we need to kind of maybe divide up the founder stream mods into certain categories, right? Something to think about.
Yeah, my takeaway here is we have needs for specificity about the number of mods specific to the specificity. So there could be some kind of format where they give us some homework in advance, or at least something we can look at in real time. And then the key skills to focus on. Yeah. What skill is missing in Clubhouse? I think, is it the storytelling? I don't know. We're trying to get more perspectives, but Steve.
Well, I know Brian is a master at repeating back the company better than the founder themselves. So between Alejandra's emotional play and people being impacted by the way they deliver and how they deliver with the heart component, and then you Brian, and then you have the business like yourself, like the SaaS, B2B, go-to-market strategy, which are more specific to the business model. Does that make sense, Red? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I don't know, Brian, if this rocks with you, but people have the hardest time pitching themselves. You don't. And that's a good thing. The ego's out of it. And he's coming out of the stage. So with that in mind, and I want to do a time check. John, I know we put half an hour on. Are we good to go a little bit longer? Are you good? I got an extra 15.
Yeah, I have a little bit. I have to go. I have a hard stop at 3, but I'm sure. But we should listen to 2 as well. He's up here.
Yeah. And Jonathan, I saw you come off mute.
Well, is the lead mod,
Jonathan,
and I hold myself.
Jonathan, you're going in and out.
Am I breaking up?
John,
you're breaking
up. John, can you start again? Yes.
Still breaking up?
You're good.
I'm going to invite Alejandro up here too.
I think the one thing I've learned too is that the lead mod, and I hold myself to this too, has to do a better job of not only moderating the people that come to the stage, but moderating the people who are already on stage. So cutting off mods who are going long-winded and speaking too much, or basically are not, sticking to the kind of how the room was set out. So that's a big thing.
I mean, Jonathan, I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm never long-winded, so I don't fall into that category.
LOL.
Who wants to move Brian to the audience?
No, but what I've seen happening, and this is through no one's fault, is bleed over the topic thing. And I know that for myself, it's one of those things where sometimes someone will ask a question or say something, and there's a required context or larger answer that I know I want to give, and I need to personally get better at staying within the topic of the room or the sort of the model of the room. At the same time, it's the inverse of that is there are certain people that we have on stage sometimes that will answer a question that has nothing to do with who they are or where they are or anything else, which is completely fine, I guess. But I think it's something that just we all as mods need to maintain that awareness and have an internal kind of agreement that if one of us is the lead mod and needs to cut somebody off, that it's not an insulting thing, that it's literally just a redirect.
Okay, Brian, with that being said, let's go to our customer, Emmy.
Hey guys, so my feedback will be I really enjoyed the room which you hosted yesterday, John. So it was 6 or 9 questions just to format your page and make it more descriptive, So just one sentence: who you are, what's your company, what's problem you're solving, and what your solution. I really loved it.
Well, thank you, Emmy. Yeah, Xan and I came up with that and then we don't invite anyone else because we just want to move it along, and we want to do an hour, but it always goes longer. We think that's a really good way, because if you can answer those questions, you can do your pitch. And that if you can answer those questions, you could actually build your pitch deck. And so let's look at your traction, or let's look at your clear, unfair advantage, like going a little bit deeper. So do you think there's a room, beyond what Xander that you did last night, to go even deeper to now vet out the actual business model is the ultimate question.
Yep. So basically what I'm thinking, so that format which you had, that's perfect. And maybe you can ask questions on each sentence, saying that if I'm saying that my solution is just marketplace, and you can ask questions and say, okay, what's your business model? Just follow up questions. So it will make it more interactive and more descriptive. That's
okay.
What I'm thinking.
And then you would wait for that, like in the audience for that turn? Because that would take some time.
Yeah, I will wait because it will give you also value for me. So I will ask myself, okay, if John is asking about different company, right? So same question will be addressed to me. So I need to think about my answers.
Oh, Red, we hadn't thought about that. If somebody's listening, they're actually learning and preparing for their own presentation. So that's...
Yeah, that's why when you said I'd like to go deep, like go real dig deep, there are people in the audience who are modifying even their own pitches and stuff in real time. But when you're only giving 90 seconds, they're probably not going to modify their behavior. So that could be the benefit of the room, is we're going deep so others can learn rather than just listening. Well done.
Exactly. When I'm listening, so I'm also improving my page and modifying my page.
Makes a lot of sense, actually. Thank you, Amin. I really appreciate your feedback here. We know you're in a lot of rooms, so that means a lot to us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Quick recap. I'm logging this, and this is in real time right here, John, from the notes. Need for specificity, the number of mods being specific to specific, of course, a form. Key skills. It sounds like storytelling might be a big one to focus on, at least for the beginning. because there are other skills we could focus on as part of pitch, like how to position, business model, team, etc. A lead mod, thank you, Jonathan. A mod that can manage the mods. So in case Brian is speaking too little, we can encourage more of it. And then benefits. The benefits. What is going to be the benefit of people listening? Not the people on stage, but why should I spend 10 to 15 minutes in this room in the first place? And I think having the benefit of watching someone else get their storytelling broken apart and taught how to fix that, rather than making it the answer specific to that person, it can be enough that the people in the room listening will be able to apply it to themselves, which is the hope.
Yeah, that's a really good recap, Red. Really appreciate that. You're so smart. I don't know if you do writing things down, but that's amazing recap. Two things about what you said. I think they're also asking for homework up front, or some type of way to get the mods to like open up the website at the time of doing it so that there's more information, so they can get feedback on. I think that's what they're asking for. And also, if we know Alejandra's doing like a storytelling session, we could tell the group, hey, you probably could benefit from her session on Founder Stream at this time slot. So we could, if we had a regular schedule, we could actually kindly bump them to another class, things like that.
Hi, guys. Yeah, I 100% agree. My initial idea was that I can do something more like a workshop. I mean, the room automatically just kind of like turned into a pitch room, which I like, but we're missing that educational aspect. And instead of doing critique, doing constructive, active, actionable tips, which is to me what's going to help them actually get better at the pitch. Because otherwise, what's the point? Critiquing for critiquing is great. They can identify that there's a gap, but how can they fix that gap? I think is where I can provide value, for example.
Red, we have one more. We'll take this one as the last one, Red. We have Goretti. I think she's a former founder and she has a new startup. I heard her talk in another room. Do you have some feedback for us, Goretti?
Actually, I had a question, if that's okay. Just listening to the pitch. Oh, and thank you, John, by the way. I was at the last talk you gave. I had a question, and it was if there's any VCs here or angel investors, when you're in these rooms and you're listening to the pitches, what are you listening to that's intriguing? And then also, have you invested in any company that you've heard pitch at any of these events?
I'll take that. I'm an angel investor. I've been on the platform 30 days. I have met with several founders. One is a product that we are looking at producing in China. They're a team of 5 from Cornell. While I've been coaching them, they've won 3 pitch competitions. And so we're ready to go to either crowdfunding or something else. But so that's one. We found out in the first week. Another one, a couple fell off the rails after due diligence, which happens a lot. And then I actually have to go. There's a bunch of angels looking at a couple of deals every Wednesday, and then we all decide to invest or we don't invest together as a team. And today I just met with the Hong Kong VC that invested in the first round to share diligence notes. So there is definitely diligence and deals going on in the background, but just like in real life, the percentage is really small because I think Clubhouse has a lot of early stage that's kind of rough and raw already. So it's hard to find that needle in the haystack, if that makes any sense. It's nothing personal. It's just numbers games, right? So it's a pure number of deals. To your first question of what we're looking for is all I can tell you is that when you go from room to room, Goretti, is to be consistent and authentic at all times and know that you can click on profiles and do your homework of who's in the room. And if you're having a bad day, don't get on because it'll show in your voice. Always be professional and consistent and stay away from those little lies. And if you don't know, you don't know, and just pay attention. And if you can track a group or an angel or a VC that you like, don't stalk them, but always be around, follow them and see what they like. And then you learn a lot more about how they're thinking. That's my advice to you, Goretti.
Thank you.
Okay, so John, we've been at this for about 40 minutes. I feel confident we have enough, and I just shared it with you on LinkedIn, enough to present maybe new value from a pitch room perspective. Do you think there's anything we're missing? Are there nuggets we haven't heard that would make this better than just yet another pitch room? What do you think, John?
I think that we can create a couple of betas, Red, if we have the time and we have the mod team and we have buy-in on how the mods are supposed to behave and what their workload is, and they're not just talking for the sake of talking, which is what Clubhouse has become sometimes. I think we can create, like for you, Red, I think your sweet spot is B2B, early stage, go to market. You're so articulate and smart, and you bring so much value on that component. I think as Clubhouse grows, I think we should just try to create branches like that and say, this is this room. And then if you want to do a remix and you want to work on your pitch, you go towards Brian and Alejandra. You go through that kind of path, that fork in the road. So I think we have an information that whoever mod wants to take the quote unquote lead, and then get the triage lead that's willing to kind of bump. You work to get the specific mods in the room that you could kind of create all these pathways. I mean, it takes a little bit of work, but we can do these beta tests, Red. And I think the first one we should do is yours, because you're sort of vested in this, Red. I think we should do your B2B early stage SaaS kind of tech thing and see how that goes.
I'm down. I think as a next step, Jonathan and John, you're not on the Discord, but I put this into our Founder Streams Discord. Founder Streams is
John's in there. He just doesn't go in there.
John. I go in there and I just see a bunch of like wishy-washy stuff.
No.
That's not like he is.
Well, the point is, if you're new to Founder Streams, this is what Founder Streams is about. The people who are moderating are actively trying to iterate and provide value as Clubhouse morphs and changes. Credit to Jonathan as the leader of Founder Streams, and I think we're going to talk offline about how we can start that next room up. But everyone who gave feedback, amazing. Is there any feedback, Brian, Alejandra, Ron, that you want to throw in there last minute before we shut this thing down? John, you're more than welcome to keep it open, but I do have to jump.
No, I do have to jump too. But Uncle Rajan joined and he didn't get to speak, and I know he raised his hand. Rajan, you have any last parting words?
I think whatever I wanted to say was already covered. Just that one point about how our pitch rooms should be different from the other ones, not just criticism but also feedback in terms of Jonathan does a great job of pitching back. That kind of spirit probably would be the most useful. At the end of it, is their pitch better for their being here?
Go into a structure or an order, it's just a lot easier to understand. So even doing something along the lines of like, hey, for this, not all rooms, but for this particular room, for example, we want you to pitch in this order or this structure or this whatever, because then it becomes easier to even critique too. I don't know what y'all think about that.
Yeah,
again,
that's what Amin was saying. That's the structure we did last night. Everyone had to go in the same order. Right, Amin? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. And also another idea I'm just throwing. So maybe you guys can segment rooms and create, let's say that it's an early stage SaaS, early stage marketplace. So, and audience get more benefits from that. It's just, I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's good points. One thing actually, and I'll put this, we can talk more about this offline, but I love if we, like, as we're hearing pitches throughout the week and we find someone that does a great pitch, we say hey, you should, apply to like a showcase, or I don't know. Basically we do like one night where we get the best pitches.
Oh, the money show.
Something like that. I think it'd be fun. We should think about that.
All the mods should put in like $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get no one to show up.
Yeah, or like Dunkin' Donuts gift card. I'm just kidding. But yeah. Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to start a room after this room closes about how to pitch and force people into my structure if they want to do it.
I like it. That's your way.
I also have a multi-level marketing class coming up. I'm kidding. Okay.
Yeah. It's teaching people how to pitch as an MLM.
And how to wash dishes.
Yeah.
I just want to credit Cred because he's so vested in the quality component and helping out founders, and he's just doing it because he's giving back. So it really wouldn't have happened, this room, without him. So I just give him kudos on that.
Well, I can speak for Red too. That's not something on Clubhouse. He's been doing this for as long as I've known him, like 7 or 8 years, and probably longer than that. So
I also like that he likes whiskey.
That's another room we can start entirely. But John, thank you as well. Let's connect offline. For everyone who's in this room, thank you. And now, if you want to do the right thing, go and force yourself into Jonathan's pitch format by following Founder Streams. It's the little house that's green at the top, the greenhouse. Click it, follow it, click Jonathan, and we don't have to shamelessly ask you to follow anyone else that's mods. That's all about Jonathan. We don't need that.
Thank you.
Shutting down in 3, 2, 1. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.